Hello. How's everybody doing? All right. Hey, good evening, Exodus. What's up, Autism Apocalypse, Jacob Summer? Yeah, Jacob. That's right. Let's get it going. Sammy Owens. What's up, guys? Um, so I'm gonna let yo, what's up, Eric? Vimmel, what up? So I'm going to let more people in before I start talking. Looks like we've already got 19. That's pretty cool. Um, so let's just give it a moment. Corey Faulkner, what's up? One of my wrestlers, high school wrestlers. And Jacob Summer. Until then, can we ask you questions? Sure. Meow Meow One, you are a funny dude. This guy on almost every video, the number one grappling gangster. Dude, I laugh every time you leave comments. So it's really, really cool. Um, so really, really. Okay, so let's see. Uh, you ever had a hip abductor tear? No, I did not tear my abductor like GSP. No, I've never done that. So without belts, would we be reduced to suspenders? Okay. Have you had any students with AC joint issues? Uh, I've had osteoarthritis, but it's taken forever to get me back into the mats. Tips. I'm sorry. I mean, I've had older guys that have problems, and I myself have problems occasionally. But I mean, usually the tip is just to not try to re-injure it. I'm sorry, it's not the best answer in the world, but try to take care of it, take it easy, try to strengthen that area around there without injuring it. It's like lifting weights, don't overlift. So, oh, thank you, Meow Meow One. Okay, you're 24 and you tore your AC joint. That's terrible. How's my toe doing? It's doing pretty well. Yeah, my toe, it looks fine. Obviously that knuckle, it's like if this was my toe, my big toe, it's this one. So this one actually doesn't matter that much, to be honest. I mean, it's really this is what you need. So my big toe kind of goes like this, but I can't really do this, and that bugs. But it's all right. It's fine, and it's healing. I mean, I still can't really go like 100% on it, but it works. How do you deal with patellar tendonitis, other injuries? Guys, you guys are getting hurt. Just you guys got to be careful. I know it's a dangerous, sport activity, but try to be careful. I mean, all I can say is in my 26 years, I've been hurt a lot, like anybody would be, but I really do my best to try to take care of myself. And it's one of those things where like if you don't know how to gauge, one of the ways I describe it is like if you're a construction worker, if you're on the job site when you're a beginner as a construction worker, like you don't know where all the pitfalls are, and you can get hurt real easy. You can step into a hole, you're not paying attention. There's a forklift behind you, hit you in the head. Um, you don't know where the pinch points are. You don't know what your tools, how they can hurt you. If you don't know how to use a skill saw or just things like that, that's a perfect example of the more experienced you are, the more you're aware. And so the more experience I got on the mat, the more I was aware of my body parts. So every time my shoulder's about to like tear, one, either just tap or you know how to like maneuver out before you get hurt. And that goes for falling, not sticking your arms out and getting caught, getting hurt. Um, I know it's not the best answer in the world, but our goal is to like get good enough to be aware of the pinch points so we don't get hurt. So yeah, Eric said don't get hurt. Anyway, didn't want to tap to a triangle and tried picking the guy up. Yeah, there you go. I mean, like you kind of said it yourself. You didn't want to tap to the triangle, so you did something maybe strenuous. Um, so good old belt system, like Hoyler. Okay, guys, we've got 37 people in here at this moment. So let me get a couple more questions. Guys, if these questions go crazy, I'm not going to be able to do this. Hi- erectile dysfunction. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I love the humor. So, what's the best way to get stronger? Okay, guys, look, let's get to the subject. I can't, guys, there's too many of you guys with like tons of like questions. Let's hold the questions for a little bit. So here's the subject. Let me show you guys this. I don't know if this is gonna come out. I hope that you guys can hear me pretty well. If you guys can hear me, let me know. Is that working? How's the sound? Does the sound good? Okay, sounds good. So why don't you? Okay, so guys, check it out. Can you guys see this? Is it too bright? Let me turn it down. You turn down the brightness on my phone. Okay. Whoop, that didn't work. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's probably uh okay. What it is it's Gary Tonon. He made a post on Facebook that says basically having a BJJ belt system in BJJ leads to more harm than good. Change my mind. So it's basically Louder with Crowder. If you guys don't know who that guy is, he's like a political dude. And they basically photoshopped Gary Tonon's head on I think it's Steven Crowder. So and it's basically the change my mind meme. Yes. So um this brought up a good subject. A lot of people are commenting on it. I mean, like it was liked by I guess five almost 600 people. You know, Gary Tonon's a pretty popular guy. So again, the subject, let me just read a little bit about what he said, if I can find it. Might be difficult for me to find all the things he listed, but shoot, I'm not prepared. Okay, well, guys, I'll just summarize. I don't have it in front of me, but he basically said, you know, here's some of the cons, right? You have a BJJ belt system. It makes people think they're above everyone else. So you've got like the classic blue belt who thinks that the white belts are just peons. They can just cast them aside. You guys are not like us. And it just goes up the ladder. You've got purple belts that think lower of blue belts and so on. And especially you do have at some academies with a lot of black belts, you have black belts that, to be honest, they treat people like shit. I mean, sometimes. I mean, hopefully it's not like that where you guys are. But you know, it has a negative effect in that regard. Now, like Ziegler just said, you know, they're tools of a self-accomplishment and motivation to continue to grow. And that's a positive. That's definitely on the positive side. So belts do motivate people. So, and if you have a group of respectful students, it works out great. But again, sometimes I think Gary Tonon also mentioned the sandbagging. So there was the sandbagging and the belt system creates where people don't get promoted because they want to win the next tournament first, and then sometimes you have like purple belts that seem like they're like way above a purple belt level or a brown belt, same thing, and then they're held at that level for reasons of trying to win the world championship, Um, so there's some negatives there. Um, I personally, I have, again, I didn't prepare, so I had this idea in my head, like, oh, this is going to be a great subject to talk about, and then now I'm here live in front of you, and I actually have forgotten quite a bit. This happens when you get in front of people and start talking, but um, yeah, I'm sure eventually we'll hash it out. We'll get all the information. Um, one thing I will say is the belt system when it comes to the competitions. I kind of I agree with Gary. I don't really like it too much because um, people like black belts don't want to go with a purple belt because if they lose, they feel like shit, and it's really ridiculous because you could have a black belt that's been training for 10 years, and you could have a purple belt that's training for 10 years. They're both really about the same. They both have the same time on the mat. One guy got promoted a little bit faster, so now he's got this belt in his mind that prevents him from like realizing that he's just facing another man or a woman if it's female. And it's really ridiculous. I mean, I feel like a lot of times, but it's also because I come from wrestling. So we just say, let's go, and if a guy's better than you and he kicks your ass, then you just accept it. I mean, you just pick up and go. I think competitions personally should have two divisions, beginner and advanced, and everybody else. And then I could accept maybe three divisions, but I really don't see a need for more than three. There's way too many tournaments with two guys in a bracket, three guys in a bracket. And it's really silly when, and these aren't big tournaments, and some of them are big tournaments, and you only have two guys. It's crazy. You could potentially have 10 guys in your bracket if they would just put all of the guys together. And I understand white belts, it makes it easier for them to compete. I'm all for that. I say, hey, let the white belts have a white belt division and then just have like a division for everyone else. I think it would be better. I think that again, some purple belts might beat black belts, but again, if everybody's considered the same, then it wouldn't be a big deal at all. So in that regard, I agree with Gary. Um, Obviously, the belt system. Some people like the all the benefits that it gives them. It seems like they get like a lot of respect when they get their belt. So people enjoy that and everything. And then I've heard of some people at some academies, they have these rules. And there was a video actually just the other day with John Danaher. A bunch of you YouTube watchers, I'm sure you guys probably saw it, and he mentioned a piece of it. Like he said, if two guys are in the academy and one guy and two guys are okay, you got a group here rolling and these guys rolling, and if they bump into each other, let's say these guys bump into these guys. I like what John Danaher said. He said if these guys bump into you, you guys got to move back, and then if these guys bump into you, you guys got to move back. But if you can't tell who bumped into who, then the higher rank wins, and basically the other ones move. And I like that it's almost like the belt is the tiebreaker. I think that's fine. I think that's cool. That's cool. But I've always told my students to just respect one another. It doesn't matter the rank. Um, if I'm a black belt and I go with another black belt. If we bump into two white belts, but we're the ones kind of moving out of control, I've always been the one to just move back and not like pull rank, so to speak. We had a situation at my gym one time. This was not that long ago, maybe 2, 3 years ago. And what happened was I had a purple belt pull rank on a white belt. So a white belt had a partner with a blue belt. And the purple belt went up to the white belt and said, hey, your partner is going to go with me this next round. You can have him the round after. And and the guy looked at him like, are you crazy? And the purple belt said, you're a white belt, I'm a purple belt. So therefore, like, go fuck yourself. And so that wasn't nice. And so I had to then explain to the purple belt, who was a student of mine, but had bounced and went somewhere else for a while. I had to explain to him that that's not cool. That's not the way we run it. Now, some academies, that's how they do it. So that's where he obviously learned it. He thought it was totally cool to just tell a white belt, I'm sorry, I'm taking your partner. like taking your girl, you're out of here. You can have her when I'm done. And it was pretty crazy. So it caused a big issue, and we had a big blow up in the academy. So then I had to like lay the ground rules. I explained to all my students, guys, that's not how we do it here. Everybody should have respect. You can't just tell somebody. I go, the only person in the room that can do that is me. I'm the coach. So the coach of the class is allowed to say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to split you guys up. I want you to go with you, and you go with him. So that's fine. But nobody in class should be doing that. So um, did you spank his purple ass? Well, not literally, but I did with words for sure. So so again, this was like an example that Gary Tonon was talking about of the negative of the belt system, where you have guys that get like pompous attitudes, and they lose the martial arts respect. And I'm gonna grab a few more ideas. So there was so what I do have right here is I have some comments and by a few different people. Um, so I can get some ideas from there on what they thought. So again, Emil Fisher says, only reason I give a shit about my belt is that the entitlements it affords me. If I could get those same entitlements while wearing a piece of wire, I would. I understand that, but I get it. I just don't care. Okay. Uh, so more mention of sandbagging. And somebody says the belt system's ultimately subjective. So its value depends on those awarding the belts. Very true. So if you trust your instructor, you're fine with it and everything works. And then no-gi, like again, guys, if you go to big tournaments nowadays, they have belt level for no-gi. In the old days, they used to do belts for gi, and then they would have like beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then some tournaments would even bring in a fourth one where it was like beginner, novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced. And when I used to compete and I used to referee like tons of tournaments on the West Coast, it was a beginner was 1 year and under, and then intermediate was 1 to 3 years, and then advanced was 3 and up. And personally, again, I really like that system. Some people will say, no, once I've been training for 3.5 years, I'm still only a blue belt. I shouldn't have to go with black belts. But again, I think if we just let our ego go and realize, hey, we're just trying to get better, um, I think it's fine. So there's so much stuff going on with you guys with the questions. So yeah, Sammy Owens says you need only 3 belts. I agree. People are talking about Ben. People want me to answer questions over no-gi and gi jiu-jitsu. Have you ever dated a fecal-skinned woman? No, Cynthia. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Okay, TJ says, I believe 10th Planet is the only place that gives belts for no-gi. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, my academy as well, we do it as well. And I'm sure there's, obviously 10th Planet is the most popular. So 10th Planet is clearly the most popular no-gi school, franchise, however you want to call it, in the world. And so everybody knows about them. But there's tons of other no-gi schools, I'm sure. I mean, definitely not as many as gi schools, but I'm one of them as well. My personal belief on that, I will say, I'm sorry guys, I'm getting distracted. I gotta stop looking. Yeah. Okay, Cynthia, you need to like chill. So Cynthia's acting like a little, you know. Yeah. So I wish I could block her after reading what she just said. So, with the racist comments, that really bothers me. So let's just ignore her. I wish I could. Maybe I'll report her later. But yeah, there's always going to be people like that in this world. So let's go ahead and not worry about her. Just ignore. So back to the subject. When it comes to gi and no gi, guys, here's how I feel. Some people may get upset. They might get upset with Eddie Bravo. They might get upset with me, and they'll say, "How can you give out a belt in jiu-jitsu if someone has not trained in the gi?" Now, for me, that's not 100% true. I do want my students, the ones that get black belts, to train in the gi. So they will train at least a little bit in the gi. They're going to be aware of some basic chokes at least. They're going to have some ideas. But obviously, what I do at my academy is primarily no gi. And here's the deal: for people who say it's not jujitsu if you take the gi off, I think that's just completely ridiculous. The original jujitsu that was brought over by the Gracies, and when I say original, you guys get what I mean, okay? I know that there's others. I get it, and I know that jujitsu originally came from Japan and all that. Let's don't read into what I'm saying too much. The point is, when they brought it over, guys, they were teaching techniques that were for the gi or no gi. It really had no bearing. Now, other than a gi choke, all the techniques, the guard passing, rear naked chokes, all this stuff, takedowns, sweeps, they all can be done no gi. And the reality is, in a fight, it depends on your region. Maybe you live in a cold area. Maybe people are going to have jackets. But I personally live in California. There's not a whole lot of people going to be wearing clothing that's going to be holding up like a gi will. And here's the simple argument, guys. I believe in the gi 100%. However, if you say you're a black belt in the gi because you train in the gi, and if you say that one of my guys is not a black belt because he trains no gi, well, guess what? That means when you take your gi off, you're not a black belt either. It doesn't make sense to say he has to put on a gi to be a black belt and have those skills with the clothing on, and then at the same time say, well, when you take the gi off, you're still a black belt. Guess what? My guys are 24 hours a day, whatever rank they are. And they don't have to necessarily wear the gi to have the skills. There's plenty of gi guys, sure, they transfer into no gi. And a lot of people like to make the argument that gi transfers to no gi easier than no gi does to gi. I personally don't believe that. I do admit that a lot of wrestlers, for example, that train in no gi, they don't want to go to the gi. They have a real hard time with it. But I think everybody's missing the point when they don't notice how many gi guys go over to no gi and they simply just don't understand the grips, and they struggle as well. Some guys make great transitions. There's plenty of guys that don't. So I like to respect both gi and no gi equally, and I'm a fan of both. I just tend to do no gi a lot more. So I think they're both great though. So anyway, that's that on the gi no gi subject. Again, I wish I had more preparation. What do you guys think about the belt system? So it's a motivation for people without a doubt. People love the belt system. It gives them something to shoot for. But oftentimes, now I remember, one of the other arguments is it's crazy how many people reach blue belt, the first belt after white, and then they just quit jiu-jitsu. Think about that. And some people say, well, no, it's not because of the belt. But no, I can tell you, I've been around for a long time, and I cannot tell you how many people are spiteful when they don't get their belt. Right when Facebook was kind of coming out, I was at Big John McCarthy's when I used to coach there, and there would be people, if we had a promotion, sometimes we would announce, maybe like a lot of people do it around Christmas time, we're going to have a promotion night, and everyone shows up because they're all like, please, is it going to be me? Am I going to get my belt, or am I going to get my stripe? And if someone didn't get a stripe or a belt that they were expecting, they got so butthurt in the early days of Facebook. Then I'd see it on Facebook. They would vent their anger and frustration that they did not get promoted. And it was just like so ridiculous. Are you not here for the for the journey of knowledge, which is always what I was there um, for. So, man, the chat is going crazy again. I get distracted real easy, guys. Okay. After blue, it takes so long, people get discouraged. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I quit gi jiu-jitsu after blue. I train no gi all the time, though still. Corey says, dang, I feel called out. I don't know what that's about. What happened, Corey? Somebody making fun of you? Jacob Summer, gi is superior. Okay? Guys, they're great. They're all good. Yeah. You got judo, you got all kinds of stuff, guys. Obviously, wrestling transfers a little bit better to no gi than judo would, and then you got judo transferring to gi jiu-jitsu a lot better when it comes to learning the throws. What the hell? Dude, what are we getting? We're getting ambushed by like a bunch of racial comments. This is getting ridiculous. Okay, are you able to accommodate? Serious question. Okay, are you able to accommodate or help with accommodation if I send my son to you to learn? Yes. What do you mean, rusted blade? What do you mean by accommodation? Okay, we got belt system is unnecessary. Okay. So Ryan says, I'm a white belt and I can handle purples. Good for you. Andrew H., competing in your first tournament soon. Any advice? Yeah, dude, just relax and have fun. You got to get out there and just give it a shot. The nerves are going to get to you. Just relax and have fun. We actually, today we went to a competition. It wasn't a tournament, but it was just like a little competition at a friend of mine has a gym, Muay Thai gym, and he was doing a little bit of like MMA sparring and jiu-jitsu sparring. So we brought some guys down and got some work in. So there you go. Some guy says, I quit BJJ after blue belt, Sammy Owens show. It happens. Yeah. So 36, too old to take up grappling. No way. Of course you can start. Yeah. A lot of times, purples can control white belts, but you never know. You've also, here's the other thing, guys, and I know you guys have, I'm not, again, I'm not on necessarily either side, but let me talk about this subject that happens all the time with the belts. Another problem with it is usually the student's got some issues, but you have a student, usually it's a guy who bounced around from academy to academy. He's like a 5-year white belt or 5-year blue belt, or even worse, like a 10-year blue belt. So he's pretty good. He's pretty experienced. Maybe he uses a lot of strength, and then he goes into the gym, and then he won't get promoted. The instructor just will not promote him. And so it creates tension that doesn't need to be there. You have an instructor that looks at him and goes, well, he was from somewhere else. So it's like a tribe thing. He's from a different tribe. So even though he's tried to work his way into the pack, the pack of wolves, but they don't accept him yet. So because you have this situation happen a lot, the student then gets upset with this instructor because he won't get promoted. He's like, what do I got to do? I'm a blue belt and I'm tapping all these purple belts, but they don't see me. Now, on the other hand, I've seen this happen before, and it's because the blue belt is like a 225-pound guy and he's submitting 170-pound purple belts. And he's not using any technique, and maybe he's like, it could also be not the skill. It could be his character. Maybe he's a dick. So, there's all of that issue. So that, I think that's another problem with the belt system that could be negated if we didn't have it. But so let me also mention with the belts, here's an argument for the belts. It's tradition. And I thought about this. When you have the belt system, it's such a part of jiu-jitsu. How could you get rid of it? So it's like, and I do believe in tradition to a certain degree. So I'm in favor of holding on to some tradition. But then again, if it's not positive, I mean, there was a time when slavery was tradition in some sense, and it was not good. So of course, we need to drop that tradition. Sometimes traditions should be dropped, and again, if they're negative enough. So, okay, you guys, Coach Brian versus Jiu-Jitsu. Who wins? This is silly. I love Jiu-Jitsu, guys, and we are totally not in the same weight class. I will say this, guys. Yeah, there's somebody. Tony Smith says Chewy is a heavyweight. Um, I will say this though, guys. I ran into a guy last week. I was at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, and I ran into a guy at I was at the hangar down in Orange County, and there was like burritos. We were in line for some burritos. Me and a couple of my guys, Nibar, Mike, and John, and this guy recognized us from the channel. And so the first thing he said to me is he goes, "You're small. I thought you were a lot bigger." He said, "You look big." And I was like, "Well, I guess the camera puts that weight on you," everybody says. So it's so funny that he thought I was much bigger. And people don't realize I'm a little guy. Guys, when in high school, I wrestled at 119 pounds. In jiu-jitsu, I competed mostly at around the 130 range, 145. And, again, the last time I competed was at 132. So I cut quite a bit of weight and I got all the way down to 132. Guys, I'm not a very big guy. Now I'm a little husky right now because I'm 41. I'm just, I'm eating barbecue and, start to gain some weight. But, I'm still not a big guy. I'm only 160. But, yeah, it's funny when people come to me and they go, "I thought you were a big guy." So maybe I guess I look big on film or on the videos. So how are ranks shown during day-to-day training at your gym without wearing belts? They're just not. They're just not. I mean, we don't have well, we do actually have rash guards with the sleeves. I did buy those for competition. If people want to compete in IBJJF, then they need to have that. But people don't wear those every day. It's not a mandatory. I don't have any mandatory dress code. The only thing mandatory about my dress code is you guys have to just have clean attire, no tank tops, just either a t-shirt or a rash guard. As long as it's snug fitting, that's good. Nobody likes a guy with tank tops and big old armpit hair. Grappling with that guy. So tank tops are out. But besides that, you can kind of wear whatever you want. I don't freak out when people come from other academies or fly a different flag from somewhere else. It's all good. So nothing wrong with that. So okay. Why? Okay, so Tony Smith asked a good question. Why would a blue belt want to spend his time and money at a tournament if he is going to go against black belts? That's a great question. It's a perfectly valid question. And again, here's my answer. Guys, if you're a new blue belt and if you go into a tournament where there could potentially be black belts, let me explain the way this is probably going to work. One, the division is going to be a lot bigger. So you're going to have, let's say, instead of 3 other guys that are blue belts, let's just say, at this size tournament, now there's 12 guys or 16, and there's 2 black belts, there's 2 purple belts, and obviously there's less at the top, and then it's going to work its way down. There's 3 purple belts, there's 6 blue belts, let's say, and then there's whatever, and that's it. And the odds are, again, if they start doing things kind of like what wrestling does, they seed. Yeah, the odds of you winning are not good. You're a blue belt. But the thing is that's life. I mean, like, you work your way up. You do the best you can. You have a double elimination tournament. Guys can come back through the ranks to try to place. And if you have enough guys, you can place them all the way up to 6. And if a blue belt takes 6th place, let's say the black belts are in the finals, and then let's say it's a brown belt versus a purple belt for 3rd, and then you're a blue belt and you grab 5th or 6th, yeah, that's something to be proud of. And you had a real a real bracket, but you'll get better. That's life. It's the same thing. The only difference is you're fooling yourself. To be honest, you were in a bracket with 2 blue belts or 3 blue belts, and then you got third. And then because you won one match and you lost one match, or you lost your first match, you won your second, you got third, you go home with a medal, you feel great, but it's not really testing you. And again, wouldn't it be better to get into a tournament, go be able to fight the best sometimes, and then come back through it? I know it's hard to understand because I live in both worlds. I live in the wrestling world where this is the way it is, and I live in the jiu-jitsu world where there's rank. And it totally makes sense. It's a valid question, and I could even argue for that side. But I still think overall, at least with competition, I think it would be better. I think it would be better if we took that out. The other thing is, you know, the when it comes going back to tradition, I think the belts are still good in the academy, but maybe they shouldn't even be shown in competition. I mean, if it's gonna make people feel butthurt, or not compete, you know. Again, I don't know. I'm on the fence, guys. I'm not even 100% sure, but I definitely think it's a negative when it comes to competition. I think it does hold people back. I think it's a mental crutch for so long until you finally reach brown black belt. I think you are just totally mentally fucked when you meet a black belt. Purple belts could go with another black belt, but instead they see the black belt and then they get mind fucked and then they can't do well. And I just think that is not good because what wrestling has taught me, guys, is that you just you just do the best you can. You get after it. Doesn't matter who the guy is. Doesn't mean you can't win. You just get after it. And guys, the guy who wins the purple belt world championship, guess what? That dude submits plenty of black belts. The purple belt world champion in IBJJF, so he probably submits, I would argue, out of all the black belts in the world in his weight class, he submits half of them, the purple belt world champ, more than half probably. And I would actually, I don't even think I'm going out on a limb saying that. So it's really subjective. Belts are subjective, and I think in some sense it holds you back. But there's positives and negatives. So let me get back to see what people are saying. Okay. Let's see. Let me find a question that is. I make my guys wear colored rash guards in judo. Okay, that's cool. Purple versus black is one thing. Some blue belts are likely to get injured in advanced rule set versus, there you go. There's another great argument. So experience purple and up. The timing is just dangerous. I agree to a certain degree, But again, it's a competition, and I think that it can happen to anybody. Like anybody can get caught, and you have to learn how to tap. But I do agree with that to a certain degree. It's a good argument. So much stuff going on. Some guy says, "Oh, Jew Nunya, I never had this confusion in wrestling. I just knew I sucked. Now, as a two-stripe blue belt, I'm not allowed to suck." Yeah, you know what? That could be a positive though. You get your belt, and now the belt pushes you. So, yeah, somebody says Henzo blue belts that compete would probably beat most black belts. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've been playing with any Henzo blue belts, but I'm sure Danaher's doing a great job over there. So, Callie Carter, how would you engage a wrestler that gets on a knee in the neutral position? If I was a jiu-jitsu guy without wrestling experience, I assume you're asking, or is it I'm a wrestler too, Callie? Let me wait for him to reply. Guys, please just don't hold your questions real quick. Let Callie reply. How would you engage a wrestler that gets on a knee That happens sometimes in the neutral position. Wrestling. Okay, so I have wrestling too. I'm just gonna get in a low stance, or I don't know if you're saying, okay, are you saying the sport of wrestling, or are you talking about in jiu-jitsu? So that I need to know. Are you're talking about in wrestling? In wrestling, in wrestling. Is it in wrestling or in jiu-jitsu? Okay, sport of wrestling. Um, yeah, if a guy's on one knee, guys, a lot of times a referee will look at that as a stalling tactic. He should. So what you do when a guy is on his knee, you definitely keep a low stance. Head levels need to be at the same level. So head levels, you cannot, if the guy's on one knee, you cannot rush in. You get shot on. So that's pretty well understood. You've got to stay low and go head to head. Once you can get a hold of your opponent, if you're head to head, he won't be able to lunge in. That's the idea. You're down blocking already. You're using your head. And then once you can get a hold of him, that's when the game starts going. For example, Kyle Dake used that strategy a lot. Maybe not always one knee, but he definitely would have one hand on the mat against Jordan Burroughs. Um, because Jordan was so explosive. That was one way a few years back he used to try to like stop Jordan Burroughs' explosive double leg, was to put one hand down at all times. Again, a lot of guys use that strategy. What I would say is get head to head, get into tie ups, and start roughing them up. Start pulling, pushing and pulling real hard, and try to let the referee know that you're the one there that's there to wrestle, and the other guy, he's really just trying to stall. So try to make angles. When a guy's on his knee, what he's going to try to do is just pivot and turn on his knee so that you can't get an angle on him. But when he's on a knee, he cannot move forward very much. So if he can't move forward, it's likely that you can convince a referee to get him called for stalling. Again, this is the sport. This is just the way it goes. You know, it's a game, and you got to get good at it. And every once in a while, I would love to do a drill with my guys and have them wrestle one guy on the knee and the other guy standing. That way they get experience. Okay, let me get back. Martial arts self-defense need to simulate environments when fight. Belts won't help in the street. Lockstock says, perfect example of what I'm trying to say. Guys, the belt's not going to save your ass. Hoist Gracie famous for saying the belt covers 2 inches of your ass. You have to cover the rest. So in the real world, the belts don't matter, and I want my students thinking it doesn't matter. But at the same time, I use the belt system. We're not wearing belts in Nogi, at least in class. Okay. Sorry, there's so many questions, guys. I'm trying to catch up and find something to tug on right now in this chat. I don't know if why do I feel like any BJJ white belt can submit me and I've never can't submit me. Zombie Wolf, why do I feel like any BJJ white belt can't submit me and I've never trained? I don't understand the question. And by the way, again, white belt is like when you come in on your first day, and white belt is also when you're on your last day of white belt. So you're still like, white belt doesn't describe a student very well. It only does when you're way higher level. Um, some white belts are on the verge of blue. Some white belts don't know much at all. They don't hardly know anything. So if you've never trained and you're athletic, sure, you may be able to beat a white belt. But I've got some white belts at my school that anybody who walks in the door, if they don't have experience, they're not going to be doing very well unless they're just the greatest athlete around. So, okay. Somewhat close to your abilities one way or another. That's the other thing is the belt, guys, it does signify your abilities a lot of times. So that's a positive in some sense for the belts. You know, it's a way to say you guys are at this level. Let's take all the blue belts. I want 6 blue belts. You guys go over there in the corner. We're going to be working on this subject today. And then we're going to take these white belts, and I want you guys to work on shrimping, for example. But the blue belts, we're gonna improve your arm bar from the mount because you guys are ready for that. Obviously they already know arm bar from the mount if they're a blue belt, but maybe it's an advanced variation or something. So it is a good thing. I certainly see that. And again, I'm not like dead set on it. I think Gordon Ryan was just getting, or not Gordon Ryan, but Gary Tonon was getting people to think, and I do like the subject. I mean, like it's a good subject with lots of angles to it. So that's why I thought it'd be great to talk to you guys about it. So okay, oh man, I only want to go with black belts. Do you need a black belt to teach jujitsu? No. Guys, you know what else is so funny about the martial arts? You don't need anything to teach it. You need a license to cut someone's hair. You need a license to drive. You need a license to fish. You need a license to do so many things in this world. But you don't need a license to teach jujitsu. It's crazy, right? Um, it's one of those things. Martial arts is like an untouchable subject. Like, how do you regulate that? How would the government regulate martial arts? Think about it. You know, individual organizations like jujitsu, they love to say, this guy's a black belt under our organization, therefore he is qualified. But what if you just made up a system called Rex Kwon Do? And then who'd want to get a roundhouse kick to the face while the instructor's wearing his bad boys? So, you know, you just people can make up whatever martial art they want, and they can run schools, and some of them are really successful, and the instructors aren't very good at, let's say, self-defense or martial arts skill, but and some of them are really good people. They're teaching good morals. And I had a talk with my guys today about martial arts not just being ass whooping, but martial arts teaching you good morals, respect, honor, things like that, building a good character. So you need Megan with you to demo what you're talking about. No, I don't. So anyway, so yeah, you don't need a black belt, guys, but it's a good thing. So, but you know what? There's schools out there that have purple belts, brown belts, even blue belts teaching. When I started in the 90s, there's plenty of blue belts teaching at schools. Karate schools all over had blue belts teaching classes. And a blue belt kind of knows what he's doing, and he can take white belts under his wing and teach them. I'm not saying it's the way to go. Of course, you guys would love to learn from John Danaher if you could. Personally, a lot of people are very lucky to be around a guy like that. Um, you know, but it is what it is. Sometimes you got to take what you can get, and if all you have in your area is just a mediocre purple belt, then learn from that mediocre purple belt and let them take you as far as you can. So, and it's not always a bad thing. Some purple belts will take you to a higher level than a black belt will. There's plenty of piece of shit black belts in the world too. So, so have you ever had a student who trained consistently but just could not get past white belt skill level? That's a really good question. And I'll say this, guys, the answer is no. I've heard this subject before, or excuse me, this saying before. Um, Jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but everyone is not for jiu-jitsu. And if you guys understand that, it's like, or another one, a meme gets passed around social media where it says, I believe it's, uh, how long does it take an average person to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu? What's the answer? Anybody? Let's see if anybody can get this answer. How long does it take an average person to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu? Give you guys a chance to chime in. Somebody says 10. There it is. Foul Fortune got it. Trick question. An average person can't get a black belt. Yep, Jacob got it. And then we've got 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. So you guys are all correct. It's commonly said that it takes about 10 years. But an average person does not get a black belt. It's true, guys. So few people make it to black belt that if you are average, you're not going to get it. I'm sorry. It's not for you. So jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but everyone is not for jiu-jitsu. In other words, they get to a certain point and they fail. A lot of times there's things holding them back. Now you could argue somebody is so handicapped that they can't do jiu-jitsu. I get that. Let's push that one aside. Okay, that exception. Any able-bodied person, if you are able-bodied and if you work hard enough, if you had the mind to push yourself through these moments, everyone could. The problem is the average person gives up and they quit. And that's what it is, you know? So, guys, if you guys seen the movie Rudy, anybody seen the movie Rudy? You know, it's based on a true story. Obviously, it's a movie, but based on a true story. And it's an amazing story because this guy, oh, come on, Jacob. It was not a shitty movie. The movie was amazing. Okay, it's based on a guy who just has no talent, but he wanted it so bad to play Notre Dame football, and he eventually got to play. So we'll argue about that later, Jacob. But guys, there's so much passion in that human being that he was going to play for Notre Dame. He got to play one play or two plays. I think he did two plays, but at least one play, and then his name could be listed as on the Notre Dame football team. And I believe he got to play two plays. But the point is, guys, if you want it bad enough, you can reach that level. And a lot of people always give up before they can get there. There's so many things that I've done in my life that there's no way I thought I could do them. If I were to go back in time, I wouldn't think I would be here right now speaking to you guys. I was just an average dude, but I do feel that I have some gift, in some regard, but it's literally hard work, guys. I've been doing this for 26 years. David Goggins taught me that anything's possible. Hell yeah. Amen to that, Ruben. So again, if you guys don't know who David Goggins is, you need to listen. Tough dude right there. And again, just an average dude in the beginning. Maybe he had some good genetics, but still some switch flipped in his brain. And that's all it was. So what I believe is you guys got to tap into that switch. You got to find out what that is in you. I'm not a David Goggins. I'll admit I'm not as tough as him. But guys, I've learned to be tough. I was not the toughest dude coming up. And I was not the most talented. And I was not the most athletic. But I just persevered. And the more I persevered, the more I learned this is working. I'm going to keep it going. And I noticed all the people around me that were better than me, they just fell. I didn't feel like I rose as much as I felt them fall. I did rise, but I felt them just drop off. And then I went, damn, it's literally consistency. It's the little engine that could. So, all right, let me get back. What if you have a Steven Seagal belly? Yes, you can become a jiu-jitsu black belt. It's skill, man. If you guys know how to use, I know plenty of fat dudes out of shape. They're still black belts. And some of them are still kick your ass. So, and they have the skill. A lot of schools, sometimes it takes 5 to 7 years to be a white belt. That's not unusual. Uh, there's probably not a whole lot of those. What's the guy in the NFL with one hand? I'm not sure. Almost 2 years of working my ass off, and I'm about to get a blue belt. Just keep going, Jacob. Do not give up. Keep going. Using a ton of guidance from you, we've achieved our first silver in our members' debut tournament. Thanks to you, coach. Tasneem Furtis. You're welcome, dude. I'm excited for you. Happy to hear that. I have the gift of Adam Sandler. Yes, I do. I was in the supermarket like 5 days ago buying some chicken in the deli section. The lady said, "You know who you look like?" And I went, "Oh, God, who?" And they're like, "Adam Sandler." I was like, "No, I don't." I was like, "I never get that. Never, never." And she said, "Really?" I said, "I get it all the time." So, but it's mostly from you guys on YouTube. Usually I don't get it from people in person. So, coach, how do you find balance? Yeah, I don't know what you mean. Balance as in balance in life, balance on the mats. Um, just something you do. Do you promote competitors and non-competitors based on the same standards? That's a good question. Do I promote competitors and non-competitors based on the same standards? If I would say no. I would say guys that compete. This is common, guys, at a lot of academies. If I have a young guy who's 20 and he's competing a lot, again, I make him work a little harder than the average. Let's say a 40-year-old guy, he can get a blue belt a little bit easier than that young dude. I'll admit it. I do that. If this guy works hard, he's on a different scale. Doesn't mean that it's drastically different, but he's gonna he probably isn't as good as the young guy, but again, the young guy is the young guy. Of course, he should be a little bit better. But I expect the older guy to have the skill. I want him to have the skill. I don't expect him to have. I try not to base it solely on ass whoopings. If you do that, if you base it on ass whoopings, eventually you end up with an issue. Like I said, where you have a student that can whoop ass, but he's still doesn't cut the mustard on that level. You could have a guy who's a white belt, he beats blue belts all the time, but he's not a blue belt based on a lot of other things. So I try not to base it solely on ass whoopings, but ass whoopings is taken into consideration. Let me put it like that. Just pretend you are Adam Sandler next time. I don't know how to do an Adam Sandler. I just gotta yell. So that's how I always recognize Adam Sandler in his movies. So, any thoughts on general mat etiquette? Trim your nails, guys. Clean clothing. Um, be respectful to people. Shake people's hands. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You don't have to do that, but I don't demand to be called professor or master. I don't do any of that. But a sir is always good. It's always good to refer to people as sir. That's a respect thing that I learned in the martial arts when I was 18. Not even when I was a kid, but I learned it when I was 18, and it's stuck with me to this day. And I think it's a very good thing. So, how do you deal with bully students? I have a talk with them. I have a talk. If I have a bully student, I immediately have a talk with them. I don't let them get away with it at all. I don't beat their ass. I mean, I might, but I'm not gonna like. It's not gonna be obvious. I never am. Do I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I do not, I regulate on people, but I don't ever, it's never like animosity. There's never like anger. Um, you know, I'm trying to explain that. I hope that makes sense. I never try to show that. I just try to have talks with people. And again, it solves itself, because if you talk to somebody enough, and if somebody continues, it just becomes an ultimatum at one point. They've got to go, or stay and fix themselves. So Corey says the mural in the gym where you're armbarring the guy really looks like Adam Sandler. Okay. Okay, WM Widecock. Nice name. Float or pressure pass? Um, both. I use both. I pressure pass anytime I can. Guys, as I'm getting older, I think pressure passing, knowing how to do it, it takes, there's a lot of little fine details. I would love to do on a video coming up soon, talk about how to pressure pass and how I deal with these problems, passing half guard, passing butterfly, passing an open guard. But at the same time, you've got to use both, because there's a time to pressure pass. One thing I don't do, I just put on a video not that long ago, is I don't just run into a knee shield. Guys, if a guy knee shields, the knee shield is the anti-pressure pass guard. It's the anti-pressure pass guard. So with a knee shield, I don't. I disengage slightly and then I move sideways and I move around them. But if you let me connect my body to yours, then I'm going to pressure pass you. That's how I feel. Why do I have months where I suck, followed by a little progress? That's that's life, man. You might have really good guys in your gym, and it's going to be a long journey to to get good, it seems. And especially if you're basing your progress off of ass whoopings, how many you're taking and how many you're given. So um it's very hard to measure progress on a day-to-day basis. So when you say, why do I have months where I suck? That's realistic. You're going to suck for months at a time, and you're going to notice the changes over the course of months. Changes aren't noticed usually in days. Days you cannot see. That's like days of growth, like physical growth when you're a kid. It takes months and years usually to see progress. So, all right. I'm beating blue belts, and my coach still doesn't consider me a blue belt. Just keep hustling, Jacob. Just keep hustling. So, man, Bobby Boucher, clean clothing, called him out. That's right. Have you ever banned somebody from your gym? Parker Lewis asks. Um, no, I've never banned anybody from my gym that I know of. I did have a gentleman. See, I have a manager at my gym who's kind of like a guard dog, and he's weary of people. So he had somebody he did not prefer to be at the gym, and I looked into it, and he kind of seemed like he could have had a bad streak to him. And so I let him know that it probably wouldn't be good to start training at my gym. But he was never a part of my gym. So, but we did make a business decision to not let someone in that kind of had a bad reputation. Let's put it like that. So, how do you deal with non-cooperative students that resist while showing a sequence or drill? Again, you guys got to talk to them. You know what? I will say this, guys. I've seen it before where people won't even say anything. Like the guy is obviously, like I've seen instructors not say anything to a student who's obviously making it hard on the other student. I just call them out, guys. Everything in my gym, some I like some people can look at me like I'm a dick in class, but I will just call them out on the spot. I'll say, "Hey guys, don't be a dick partner. Just like let them do it. Make sure you guys let them do it." And I'm like, and I don't always call them a dick partner, but I'm just saying, like sometimes I'll say, "Hey, let them do it. Help them out." And I'll always tell people, help your partner. Your job as a training partner is to make your partner better. If you make your partner better, he's going to make you better, which makes everyone better. So I just call them out like right away. And I think a lot of people, maybe they don't feel comfortable calling people out. I have no problem just saying what's on my mind. When I see somebody, same thing with doing a technique wrong. I've seen coaches just not even say anything. Just go, "Oh, you're doing good." I'll tell a guy, "You're in the ballpark. You're doing pretty good, but you still need to have your head up a little bit more," whatever it is. But never will I just let somebody just do it completely wrong and just walk on by. And I've seen, I'm not like saying any names. I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but I've been around this game a long time and I've seen instructors do that. It's almost like they don't really care. They're like, "Oh, he's a white belt, just doesn't know what he's doing anyway. Just let him go." Um, and maybe they just don't care enough about the student to help them. So, all right. Unless you train with a white belt, you ultimately fail when you don't know how to deal with randomness. Okay. Should you do weightlifting to supplement grappling? Yes. Answer is yes. Weightlifting's great. I wouldn't overdo it or overthink it. But yes. Oh my gosh, we've got too much, too many questions. We're going for an hour already. Kimura is a figure four in wrestling. Uh, yeah, I guess some people call it a figure four. All right. Did you watch Teach Me Grappling during the sucky months? Huh? You can't do Kimuras in wrestling? You can do a Kimura in wrestling, guys. You just can't. Well, I mean, like you can make the grip in wrestling. You cannot take it behind someone's back. So that's what's illegal about that hold. The hold itself is legal. It's what you do with it that makes it illegal. So, okay, we love watching your videos, especially because of your wrestling background. We do chain movements from standing to takedown to submissions, like arm drags to single leg to arm bars, etc. That's great. At age 52, sometimes I find the techniques don't come quickly. Watching the videos helps reinforcing. Good. Good for you. I know it's got to be hard, guys, if you guys are starting grappling late. I can imagine. I mean, I was fortunate to start at age 15. So it's called a double wrist lock. You guys talking about the Kimura? I just spent some time with the catch wrestlers with Jake Shannon. So a little shout out to Jake and also Sam Cresson. Spent some time with them last weekend, guys. Um, yeah, that was an interesting day I got to spend. All right. Do you do seminars? Yes, I do. Not a lot, but I just got told today by a new academy in Ventura, California, which is close by. They want me to do a seminar there. Do you do tape study or do you learn new things a different way? Yeah, I learn by watching live grappling. I learn by watching tutorials like the ones I do. I don't watch everything on YouTube, guys, but like there's so much stuff nowadays. But I actually do watch people's stuff, and I learn. Even if I don't like do what they do, it stimulates my mind, and then it helps me grow. So, but I'm constantly watching either live matches or other tutorials to get better. And then also, I tend to just have a brain that kind of like comes up with stuff when I roll. So there's a lot of shit that doesn't work very good. Like I stumble on something, I think I have something, and then I attack it for a while, and then I realize it's not as good as I thought it was. I'm going to abandon it. And I push it aside. It becomes a low percentage technique that I use. But anyway, is there a rivalry between catch wrestling and BJJ? Yes, there sort of is. Um, that rivalry, you know, is, you know, as far as catch wrestling goes, guys, because I come from wrestling, I had a friend of mine that mentioned to me, he goes, when I posted that video with the catch wrestling, he said, Coach Brian, you've already done catch wrestling. You learned from Santos Lanikin and you learned from Gene LaBelle and Gokor. By the way, guys, I mean, back in the day, if I could probably count 10 sessions I had with those three guys and on one day or another. Santos Lanikin, Gokor, and Gene LaBelle. I probably had 10 sessions with them. I wouldn't consider that training under them. I learned a few techniques. Yes, I've studied videotapes. Yes, I've seen catch wrestling stuff, but and it is a part of my repertoire. Like I do have some of the things that I learned. I readily admit that, but it's overwhelming how much of my game is jiu-jitsu. Certainly a lot of my game is wrestling, but I don't call that catch wrestling. So that's my little thing with the naming when you name stuff. Catch wrestling when I was coming up was really wacky. I mean, it still is a little bit, but it was really wacky. I discussed this with Jake Shannon. I've got a really cool, almost like an interview, me and him talking, going back and forth, which I may share with you guys in the future if you guys want to listen to it. I mean, we talked for probably an hour plus on the subject of catch wrestling, and I have my issues with catch wrestling, and I presented it to him. I didn't. I pulled punches a little bit, but I felt that I was pretty balanced with what I was trying to get across with him. I definitely. It's not like I convinced him the problems of catch wrestling, but I definitely tried to probe the problems that I have with catch wrestling, and you know, either way. But I think Jake Shannon is he's a popularizer of catch wrestling. He's an ambassador for it. He wants to fly that flag. That's cool. I think he's keeping it alive, and I think it's a good thing, ultimately. So I think that's a good thing. Let me let me see what is going on here. Okay, let me. If you guys please don't ask any more questions, so this thing doesn't move. Jun Chunt Ju says you watch the Mendez brothers highlights at half speed. Good. That's how you do it. You can learn a lot. I think Keenan Cornelius. Ah, that's the subject right there. Keenan Cornelius saying Haleo and Nixon would be purple belts by today's competition BJJ standards. Skeptic asks, what do I think? Guys, I saw that. Um, Honestly, some people think he was backpedaling. When I listened to his explanation, and I agree with him. I agree with Keenan. I what I'm trying to say is, what he's trying to say is, if you could transport them to today, and they would have to deal with the competition level of today, they would get confused. There's no way that in my opinion, Alio or Hickson, even though Hickson's amazing, he would have to deal in the sport. We're talking about the sport. I'm not talking about in a fight, but in the sport, which is what I think Keenan was referring to, they would have to deal with a lot of shit. A guy pull guard and start berimboloing in the gi. And I'm sorry, if you're not familiar with it, guess what? Those high level guys at purple and brown, they're gonna make you look stupid because you're not gonna be aware. That's just a fact. That's the way things go. Things get better with time. So I know that some of the purists are gonna hate me saying that, and I'm a Hickson fan. I love Hickson, but that as far as sport jiu-jitsu goes, I agree. So I bought a belt above. Okay, I know it's wrong, but I bought a belt above my own to compete at an appropriate level, blue purple. So you're a blue belt. Tyler's a blue belt, but you bought a purple belt? That doesn't sound right. So Junk Juice says catch wrestling, like judo or wrestling, is only a subset of BJJ. BJJ has the smallest rule set. I get what you're trying to say. I don't really agree, but I would say more like what I think is grappling's here. This is everything grappling. And then out of grappling, you've got catch wrestling, wrestling, BJJ. But I know what he's saying. He's saying that BJJ is less limited. You know, judo has too many rules to it. You know, but that's also when you think of grappling as the submission. So I do agree with you, but that's when you think grappling as submission. That's the problem with catch wrestling that I have. And skeptics asking about catch. I kept trying to pose this to Jake. The pin. I have a problem with the pin. I'm a wrestler. I know all about pinning people, and I get it. I was told by someone that the pin to the samurai was the end of the fight because if you could pin someone on the battlefield, then your buddies could come along and break out their sword and kill your opponent. So a pin was a way of saying you're ending the fight because if you pin someone, you basically won in war. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. I don't know if it's true or if it's real. I don't know. Sounds cool. Um, but the pin is dominating. But I think this is one thing I favor jujitsu over catch is because jujitsu has the pin. You know, I think John Danaher is the one that's been popularizing the name pin. He loves to call a guard pass pin, which is fine. I guess it's cool. And because he's so popular, I'm sure a lot of people are starting to adopt that way of speaking. Think of like a guard pass. A guard pass, you take the guard, you move the legs to the side, and you pin them in side control. And then you get 3 points in a sport tournament. So they are rewarding the pin, but the pin does not end the match like it does in wrestling and in catch wrestling. There's plenty of MMA fights, guys. You guys have all seen. A guy could be pinned. He could be pinned for 4 minutes. It doesn't mean he's losing the fight. He could be on his back doing more damage from his guard than the guy on top. Being pinned doesn't mean you're losing necessarily. It does show some form of domination to some degree. And especially like in judo, you have to pass the guard to get the pin. In wrestling, you don't have to pass the guard. So I do like that about judo, that a pin is only when you got to pass the guard. But the problem I have with pins for catch wrestling or judo is it then makes a guy worry about a pin, and now he has to defend by turtling. And so what he's done is he's learned how to put himself in a pretty bad position in a fight. Now, I'm not saying that turtling's bad all the time. It can be a great thing, but it's it's also, a big problem for people. I mean, if you guys just watch the early days of MMA, there's plenty of wrestlers that turn their back to get choked. I mean, it happens today. Or judo guys that would fight jiu-jitsu guys, and then they would turtle and then get choked out. So that's my problem with catch wrestling is if they would just take out the pin, I think that it's fine. Then, and his argument was it's just grappling then. So I don't want to go into this too much because I do want to release that video pretty soon. That way you guys can see our talk. But it he didn't want it to be submission grappling at that point or no gi jiu-jitsu. And you want to it's holding on to tradition. So it's getting late, guys, but let me say this. I'll tell you guys a story about tradition. So this story was told to me by my instructor, and I may miss some of the maybe I'll get it wrong a little bit, but I should get, for the most part, I think I can remember. So I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, right? Christmas, and Grandma can't cook anymore. So this time, Grandma's daughter is going to cook, and they have grandkids and great grandkids, and so for the first time, she's going to do Christmas dinner, and she's cooking a ham, and the grandmother that always cooked, her son, right? So this is her son is used to getting the Christmas ham from mom. Well, now it's his wife cooking. And when she pulls the ham out, he looks at it and he says, "You didn't cut the back of the ham off. Why didn't you cut the back of the ham off?" And she says, "I don't know. I don't know. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Aren't you supposed to cut the back of the ham off? That doesn't make sense. I'm always used to seeing it cut off." And, she goes, "Well, why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense." And he says, "Yeah, I don't know why. Grandma, why did you always cut the back of the ham off?" And she said, "That was the only way I could get it to fit in the pot." And so the point is, tradition made it where hams were, fast forward now, it wasn't needed, but it became tradition. And, you know, should we hold on to traditions? And I could use that for the catch wrestling. I could also use that for the whole belt system idea. Is it truly needed, or are you just doing it because of tradition? And should we? Some traditions are great, but if they're harmful, that's the issue. And that's my problem with catch. I really think it harms catch. I think that the catch wrestling guys, they do have a different style than jiu-jitsu. I think they will fall short at high levels against jiu-jitsu guys in competition. Now, obviously, that would be if the competition was based on submission only. If the competition has pins in it, then the catch wrestlers are geared towards that. But to me, the only way to settle is to have them fight. So, and I think in an MMA fight, I would say that a catch wrestler would not have the superior submission skills. So I said my piece. I'm sorry if I hurt catch wrestling's feelings. So, okay, guys. All right, guys. It's getting late. Yes, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for supporting me. Man, we've got 83 people in the chat room right now. I've been going for an hour and 23 minutes. So, so many good things to talk about, guys. I could literally do this for a lot longer, but I do need to do some more things before I go to bed. I've got my cocktail. Ah, good stuff, guys. That's Mountain Dew if you're curious. It's how I'm rewarding myself. So, all right. I guess that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much, everybody. Good night to you. Thank you so much for all your support, and you guys are amazing. I'm gonna try to do this as much as I can, and I'll I'll be back with more stuff this week. The number one gangsta, grappling gangsta, meow meow. So, guys, I'll be taking more requests pretty soon on things every single day. I have new ideas to show you guys technique, but there's so many like what do I do? Even from day to day, I don't have a plan. I just literally just flow. I just go with it. Something will come up There's plenty of wrestling I want to show you guys, but leg locks. People want leg locks. I could do leg locks. I'm getting older, guys. I don't know if I want to keep. I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep doing it, but I do have some leg lock stuff here or there. I just think that there's plenty of good leg lock guys out there. So it's one of those subjects where I like to defer and let you guys watch the Gary Tonons, the Gordon Ryans, the Craig Joneses of the world. You know, watch them do their stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a good night, and I'll be back tomorrow. I'm gonna show you guys some cool stuff tomorrow. All right, take it easy. Bye.